True life begins when we allow ourselves to waste, to expand, without reason. That's my general economy, a world of excess, like the sun burning endlessly. To live fully is to accept the sacred as terrifying and sublime. We must dwell in the abyss, not flee it. While others built systems, I broke them. I offer no safe ground, only the vertigo of thought.
Welcome to the Undead Sages Podcast, where we travel back in time to talk to long-dead wise men and women. Today is the fourth in a series of discussions about masculinity, in which we discuss what it means to be a man. My name is Merijn de Haen, and in this interview we'll be talking to the provocative 20th century French philosopher, Georges Bataille. His work explored transgression, eroticism, and the sacred, often blurring the line between mysticism and madness. He's deeply relevant for his radical reimagining of male subjectivity, not as control or virtue, but as vulnerability, ecstasy, and inner rupture. So let's travel back in time to the Paris of 1962 and meet him. Georges Bataille, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. It's strange and delightful to be welcomed this way. I hope your listeners are ready for discomfort, for rupture, for the wound and the laugh. I don't come with clean answers. I come with torn pages and trembling thoughts. Let's begin.
Could you give us a glimpse into your life? What shaped you?
I was born in 1897. My childhood in Reims was marked by my father, blind and paralyzed by syphilis, a brutal presence. That darkness, that sense of excess and taboo stayed with me. I converted to Catholicism during the First World War, but later twisted that faith into something else. I became a librarian at the Bibliothèque Nationale, but I was never just a librarian. I wrote fiction, philosophy, erotic literature, and founded journals like Acéphale and Critique to explore surrealism, sacrifice, and the limits of human experience. I'm drawn to extremes. I find the obscene and the sacred overlap. I write to tear open veils.
You mentioned Acéphale. Is there an anecdote from that time that particularly stands out, perhaps as amusing, exciting, or educative?
In the late 1930s, with Acéphale, it means headless, we gathered in the woods discussing Nietzsche, sacrifice, the sacred. Once, in total seriousness, we considered performing an actual human sacrifice. We even searched for a volunteer victim among us. It may sound mad, and perhaps it was, but it was a philosophical pursuit, to experience something beyond rational limits. No one died, but the edge of the blade was there. That kind of madness shows how far I believe thought must go if it dares to be true.
Your work consistently pushes boundaries. What were the core teachings you hoped to impart?
I teach that we must confront the limits of experience, death, eroticism, sacrifice, not as distractions, but as sites where meaning breaks open. Utility, productivity, rational order are cages. True life begins when we allow ourselves to waste, to expand, without reason. That's my general economy, a world of excess like the sun burning endlessly. To live fully is to accept the sacred as terrifying and sublime. We must dwell in the abyss, not flee it. While others built systems, I broke them. I offer no safe ground, only the vertigo of thought.
For individuals sensitive to life's uncertainties, how might your teachings be relevant, rather than simply overwhelming?
If you are sensitive, you already feel the tremor beneath things. I offer honesty, not reassurance. Life is uncertain. Death is certain. But within that terror, there's beauty, ecstasy even. Don't run from the void. Walk into it. Dance in it. Life is not a calculation. It's a wound that sinks. If you're afraid, that's good. Fear means you are near the real. Use it.
It appears your life was buffeted by dualities. The steadiness of librarianship versus a life suffused with transgression. Have you tried looking beyond dualities?
A sharp observation. I live in those collisions, order and chaos, sacred and profane. But the question of looking beyond dualities is where my thought bends deepest. In their trembling tension, a third thing can emerge, a rupture, a crack, where meaning spills into the unknown. That's what I call sovereignty. Not control, but release. The librarian and the mystic in me are faces of the same impulse, to touch the unspeakable. The routine itself, if held long enough, splits open to show its underside, excess, terror, laughter. I seek to move beyond duality by plunging through it until distinctions falter.
That reminds me of Indic Tantrism, like the Aghori, or perhaps certain Sufi currents like the Kalandariya, who also embraced transgression as a path.
Yes, the Kalandariya, wanderers, madmen, holy fools, living outside social and formal religious rules, not out of rebellion, but in search of divine fire. They embody that state where categories melt, where laughter and weeping are the same breath, and the sacred returns not in temples, but in the broken, the mad, the outcast. They live wastefully, gloriously, much like my concept of the accursed share.
Reaching the sacred through rupture and the transgression. That sounds dangerous. Against the backdrop of your own life and considering horrific group actions like those of the SS done in the name of transcendent ideals. Did you dwell on this peril?
Yes, I did. The line is perilously thin. Nazism played with symbols of death, sacrifice, destiny. They invoked transcendence, often drawing from a dark romanticism, not just cold authority. But theirs was instrumentalized. The sacred became a tool for power, racial purity, state violence, a profanation of transgression itself. True rupture, as I see it, has no utility. It undoes the self. It doesn't lead to mastery, it leads to loss, to vertigo. It cannot be harnessed to serve a cause. The SS committed horrors not because they went too far in genuine transgression, but because they used its symbols for domination. My path is solitary, inward, or shared without victims, without conquest. But you are right to be uneasy. That vigilance is essential.
You also thought deeply about masculinity. How does that fit into this larger narrative of transgression and the sacred?
The prevailing might of masculinity is rational, conquering, productive, fearing weakness, tears, surrender, waste. I try to unmake that man. My writing explores the male body in ruin, confronting impotence, weeping, ecstasy, submission. I'm interested not in virility, but in expenditure, not control, but loss. Fascism clings to the myth of the hard, pure man. I offer a man in shreds, not to shame him, but to free him to cry, to bleed, to kneel, to disappear, and thus reclaim his soul through the sacred chaos he's been taught to fear.
In this, you're challenging millennia of spiritual traditions, where men purify themselves for the divine. Franciscan asceticism, hesychasm, Islamic piety, Hindu and Buddhist paths of moral ascent. You seem to advocate for a man who, in a sense, becomes God by slaying mortal morality, piercing the lie, and seizing a momentary crown.
Precisely. I descend into filth, contradiction, trembling flesh. I don't seek purity, I seek reality. Becoming God, for me, is not triumphal. It's a brief, unbearable moment when the self shatters, subject and object dissolve, and body and sacred are no longer at odds. It is divinity, leaving only a scar and a laugh. Moralities guard against this, they say, be clean, good, humble. I say, be broken, not for pleasure, but because in that shattering, something beyond the human shows its face.
What then is your prescription, if I dare use the word, for a good life for modern men? How does one balance this transgression with the rest of existence, the librarianship, so to speak?
No prescriptions from me. But one must first accept contradiction. Stop trying to be coherent, morally whole, always rational. Embrace the part that longs for order and the part that aches to be undone. This isn't balance as moderation, it's a rhythm. Live in the world of things, but allow rupture through art, love, mourning, risk, even laughter at the wrong moment. The danger is forgetting one half. If only orderly, one becomes dead inside. If only transgressive, one may become cruel or hollow. Hold the tension, let the wound stay open. That's how I lived. I shelved books by day and wrote obscenities by night.
That advice might resonate. Many men today feel squeezed between trying to be upstanding and the strictures of contemporary society, allowing some of the Dionysian to manifest.
Exactly. Allowing the Dionysian to exist is vital. Modern men face an impossible grid of expectations. Underneath simmers a longing for abandon, for rawness, for something real that makes a man feel alive, not just compliant. This isn't license for cruelty. It's facing the storm inside, giving it space to speak, to bleed meaning. The Dionysian is the underground of the moral. Let men have rituals that crack something open, sweat, cry, howl, tremble. In that terror, something sacred can flicker. It can happen alongside the librarianship.
Reflecting on it from a different perspective, say a quasi-Buddhist one, I agree. It seems vital to feel deeply what simmers below, to love it for the depth it provides, rather than papering it over and believing only the surface exists.
Yes, yes. Depth, that is the word. To feel what simmers below, not as a threat, but as part of you. To make peace by letting it speak. Even Buddhism, with its release, offers tenderness towards the restless churning. Do not amputate the dark to preserve the light. Let them interpenetrate. The sacred is not above the mud, it's in the mud, as the lotus knows. When we feel that in our bones, we become more human, in the torn, weeping, radiant sense.
Georges Bataille, thank you for being with us today. It's been a very illuminating, if unsettling, conversation.
And I thank you for your willingness to walk with me to the edge and not look away. May you carry that sacred unrest with care, and may it guide you not to peace, perhaps, but to truth. Farewell for now.
And with those parting words, we return from 1962. A challenging perspective from Georges Bataille, urging us to confront the uncomfortable, the excessive, and the sacred in its most unsettling forms, even in our understanding of masculinity. Join us next time on the Undead Sages Podcast.